Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here Friday, July 11th. Very excited for the show today. We are going to do our Jaguars record prediction. Going to do this right now and then also do it right before the regular season kicks off, see if we have any adjustments, anything we need to change. I've talked about the Jaguars schedule a little bit right when the schedule was released. Talked about the Jaguars, I think, being like a 9-8 team, but now is my opportunity here to go back and reevaluate the full schedule and run through it week by week. Have a good time doing it, reevaluate these matchups based on where everybody's at now Friday, July 11th, just a few days away, about a week away from training camp, from players reporting to training camp. So I'm excited to get into it. Really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop. Pick up our new pre-order for our Cool Cats Club tee. Really appreciate y'all supporting us and showing some love. So getting into this schedule. The Jaguars start at home in the Battle of the 1995 Cats against the Carolina Panthers. And there's beyond just, the two teams being Cats and kicking things off in 1995, there are some interesting bits to this matchup, right? So obviously Dave Canales is the Panthers head coach. He was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator before Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen is now the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. He was the Bucs offensive coordinator last year. So the battle of the two previous offensive coordinators, but you've also seen Liam Cohen go head-to-head against Ejiro Evero and the Carolina Panthers defense. They have upgraded that defense in some certain ways, right? You have Bryce Young playing better football, but overall, I just look at the Jaguars. I look at them playing at home. Even though the Panthers have more continuity within the coaching staff, I think that the Jaguars have a more talented overall roster. I think they're in a better position when it comes to their quarterback and their playmakers. Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, Travis Etienne, and company. I give the slight edge to the Jaguars, but I think it could be a tougher matchup than a lot of Jags fans are thinking right now. So I get the Jaguars to 1-0 here to start the season. Then you have at the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a tough matchup because, even if the Jaguars are playing good football, Joe Burrow and company, that offense is so difficult to deal with and so difficult to keep up with in a potential shootout. Now, if the Jags defense comes out, plays lights out, yes, anything could happen. But I'm going to give the Bengals the W in week 2. The Bengals do usually start out fairly slow. I think that they might buck that trend in 2025, a season in which they are sick of just falling short, right? They went to the Super Bowl, I think it was 2021, 2022, and since then, they just have not been able to really sniff that. I think that this is a year in which that offense is going to probably go scorched earth in a lot of ways. I like the offensive line. I do have questions about the defense. I think that's fair. But if it becomes a shootout, I'm giving it to the Bengals. And I think that there's a possibility that it could be a shootout with the Jaguars having so many new faces on the defensive side of the ball, a new defensive coordinator. So I'll give the Bengals that win there. But it could go either way. And this is the NFL. It could go either way any week, right? But we're just trying to have some fair analysis of each of these matchups and have a good time doing it and figure out where I think the Jaguars will land versus Houston. Now, this game has some bad blood. Now, I know Liam Cohen was not the coach last year when Azeez Al-Shaair laid that dirty hit on on Trevor Lawrence, right? In the Jaguars versus the Houston Texans matchup. And he wasn't here when DeMeco Ryans made the comments about the Jaguars' response to that hit, which was a ridiculous comment by DeMeco Ryans, in my opinion. The Jaguars are going to want this one, and Jags fans are going to want this one at home against the Houston Texans, who right now are public enemy number 1 in Jacksonville. They are. The Tennessee Titans are the Jaguars' all-time rival, but right now, between these two teams and organizations, I think the Texans have a little bit more bad blood, and the Jags are going to want to win this game. Now, from a matchup standpoint, the Jags and Texans have been very close. All of this really does hinge on Trevor Lawrence's health, which the last 2 seasons has been a question mark for most of his career throughout college and professional. He's been a very healthy and not injury prone player. I'm going to go through this exercise assuming relative health, right? So I'm giving the Jaguars the win against the Texans. I think they match up with the Texans fairly well. It's a matchup between what should be a high-powered offense for the Jaguars and a really, really good defense for the Houston Texans. And then I think what gives the Jaguars the advantage is how poor the Houston Texans offensive line is and how abysmal their plan has been with addressing that offensive line this offseason, in my opinion. So, yeah, Houston Texans, to me, I still have them, right there at the top of the division. I still think they're a competitive team, but that offensive line is a problem. So Jaguars get to 2-1 after beating the Houston Texans at home. Then they have a couple really tough matchups. At San Francisco, I know the 49ers weren't in 2024 what they normally are, and they certainly had some major losses to the defensive side of the ball. Dre Greenlaw, who didn't really play last year, Talanoa Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, who didn't play very well last year, but a little bit of a rebuilding process on that side of the ball. I think the 49ers in San Francisco, that's a really tough matchup for the Jaguars for an East Coast team. And Kyle Shanahan is as good as it gets. Regular season coach. Brock Purdy is very underrated. They've still got a lot of talented weapons on that offense in San Francisco, as Murray is sniffing around here. She's not settling this morning. I don't know what's up with her. Jaguars fall in San Francisco to 2-2 versus the Kansas City Chiefs, Monday Night Football. I know everybody's fired up about this one. Look, it'd be awesome for the Jaguars to win this game. It really would. I think the Chiefs did so much to address their areas of weakness. I think they're going to be really good, and I'm going to still have them representing the AFC in the Super Bowl until further notice, right? They took major swings at the offensive tackle position in which they needed to do that in a big way. They addressed their defensive line with Ashton Gelati, with Omar Norman-Lott. They added Noel Williams and Christian Fulton at corner. I think they're in a good spot. Getting Rashee Rice back as well. Xavier Worthy developing. Hollywood Brown healthy. So Kansas City Chiefs, I've got them coming into Jacksonville and winning that one to put the Jaguars record at 2-3 through 5 weeks. Then the Jaguars host the Seahawks, 1 p.m. East Coast game in Jacksonville. I like Mike McDonald. I like his defense a lot. I think there's a lot of talent on that side of the ball. I think that the offense, we saw what happened with Sam Darnold last time he came into Jacksonville. He won the game, but really that was one of the worst quarterback performances I can remember from an opposing quarterback in Jacksonville. It was atrocious. And I think Darnold will be fine for the Seahawks. I just don't think they have a ton of juice. I mean, Cooper Kupp, he's up there in age. I think the Jaguars can handle him. I know JSN's a really good slot receiver, but Jordan Lewis is a damn good slot corner. I think the Jaguars' defensive front will be able to have a good time. And then I just don't know that they have on defense at corner. I know they got Devon Witherspoon and company. I don't know that they're going to have what it takes to beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville. I've got the Jaguars winning that one to get 3-3. Then the matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and the Jacksonville Jaguars, LA South. A lot of people have tabbed the Jaguars in London. Really cool matchup between, Liam Cohen facing Sean McVay, his former head coach when he was offensive coordinator there. Obviously, James Gladstone has a long-standing relationship with everybody in LA, being there for so long. So, fascinating matchup. And then you get to the matchup on paper. The Rams have become this like power rushing offense. Matthew Stafford still has a lot of zip in that arm. They added Devontae Adams. It's a tough one. But overall, I don't think that the Rams defense, that their rush defense and that their secondary is going to have enough to slow down the Jaguars passing attack. I have the Jaguars winning in London against the Los Angeles Rams to get to 4-3. Then they take on the Raiders in Vegas after a bye week. So it's not like they have to travel from London to Vegas, right? That's a big part of that. I have the Jaguars winning this game. I don't have the Jaguars winning a ton of true road games this year, but I do have them beating the Raiders. I think that Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, all these guys heading in the right direction. I like, adding Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator. I like Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. I need to see it with the Raiders a little bit more, I would have to say. And overall, even though the Raiders have a really good running back and a really good tight end, their receiving core leaves a lot to be desired. I think that there's some areas of their team, secondary-wise, leaves a lot to be desired. I think the Jaguars are able to get that win and get to 5-3 through 8 games. Jaguars then head to Houston. Houston will be looking to get their revenge, even up the season series. I'm going to give that one to the Houston Texans in Houston. Tough matchup for sure. Los Angeles Chargers come to town to take on the Jaguars Sunday, November 16th. And I've got the Chargers losing that one in Jacksonville. It's always tough to come and play a 1 o'clock game in Jacksonville as a West Coast team. And I look at the Chargers. I think that they're going to do some things really well this year. I still don't think that they have the offensive firepower. I know they drafted Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris. Hopefully he's able to heal up quick with that eye injury. Had another 4th of July fireworks incident in the NFL. Fortunately, Najee's okay, but I think some others in that incident did not fare quite as well. But Omarion Hampton, Ladd McConkey, you go and add Trey Harris in the draft. I still just don't think it's enough to have a hyper-competitive group in terms of being able to kind of win shootouts. I don't think the Chargers defense has enough to really slow down the Jaguars offense consistently. So I think the Jaguars get that W in Jacksonville against the Chargers. At Arizona, I have the Jaguars losing this one. I think this is a really close matchup. I think the Jaguars are actually a better overall team than the Cardinals are, but it's in Arizona. Tough place for the Jaguars to play. And I think that they're a dangerous team. They've got a lot of talent. They've added a lot of talent this offseason. Kyler Murray, he can get you. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, is going to take a step forward. They didn't do anything else to really add to that receiving core. But I think the combination of Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, and obviously their incredibly talented tight end, Trey McBride, is able to do enough to win them that game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. In Arizona, again, it's always tough to win on the road, especially traveling to the West. So I have the Jaguars falling to 6-5. Then they take on the Titans in Tennessee. I made it known recently, I think the Titans are going to finish ahead of the Colts this year. I have the Titans beating the Jaguars in Tennessee. I think Cam Ward, with the combination of Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, obviously Alec Manor and Chimere Dike, and then also Xavier Restrepo, and a couple talented tight ends, and a running game that I think will be good this year, a defense that has one of the scariest interior duos in football, what should be a good secondary. I think they're going to be a competitive team. I have the Jaguars losing that one in Tennessee. Tennessee's a tough place for the Jaguars to win football games. And Jacksonville, the next week, is a very tough place for the Colts to win football games. They have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. So yes, I have the Jaguars winning that game against the Indianapolis Colts to get to 7-6 on the year. They're basically trading wins and losses throughout this season. You have a couple win streaks. You have a couple losses in a row throughout this schedule, a couple times, right? But overall, you're trading a lot of wins and losses back and forth, and that's kind of how the NFL season goes for a lot of teams. Versus the New York Jets in Jacksonville, this could be a sneaky tough game, because if the Jets can become this ground and pound team that they want to be, that their offensive line looks set up to be, the quarterback position, obviously an unbelievable runner in Justin Fields, a lot of talent in the backfield, and then play tough defense, they could be a difficult team to beat week in and week out, but I just don't think they have the firepower to keep up with the Jaguars. I think the Jags are going to be able to get it done in Jacksonville to get to 8-6, 2-game winning streak there. Then they head to Denver, and I recently watched Tampa versus Denver from 2024, and it was a bloodbath. The Denver Broncos defense, so impressive, and so is their offense. I think they're well coached, they're talented. I have the Jaguars losing in Denver. It's a tough place to play. I know that there's going to be some Travis Hunter fans at that game, right? But that's going to be a tough place to win a football game. Mile High, late in the season. Really good Broncos team. I think that they're underrated. I think that I have them as the 4th or 5th best team in the AFC. They're a darn good team. And then at Indy, this is the sweep I have. I have the Jaguars sweeping the Colts this year. I do not buy their quarterback situation. I don't buy it. I think that with the offensive line, they lost some key pieces this offseason. I do like Tanner Bortolini at center. I do need to give him some credit there. I do like him a lot. I wanted the Jaguars to draft him. Still wish they did. But I think the Colts are in for, you cannot keep banking. And I know they tried with Anthony Richardson to find their quarterback of the future, and maybe he still can prove something this year. History would suggest that's not going to be the case. You can't keep going into every season saying, oh, we can win 8-9 games without a quarterback. Eventually, that's going to catch up with you. I think it's going to catch up with the Colts this year. Even though I think Shane Steichen's a really good coach, I think Lou Anarumo is a really good coach. Eventually, not having the quarterback matters. It really does. And I think this is going to be the year where it matters for the Colts, because as much as you can throw shade at Joe Flacco, Gardner Minshew, these are guys that have shown that they can get the job done. And Gardner less so than Joe, but Gardner with Shane Steichen, they designed an RPO offense that Gardner was incredible at operating, right? I think you don't have an offense that Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones will be incredible at operating. I just don't see that offense existing. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. I do think they're going to be competitive still. I just think the Jaguars are going to have too much for the Colts, and they're going to sweep the Colts. And then they're going to beat the Tennessee Titans in Jacksonville in Week 17 to get to 10-7 on the year. I had them at 9-8. I'm a little bit more bullish based on the strength of the division, based on some of the matchups that they have being at home versus on the road. I have them at 10-7. And I think that will be enough to punch a ticket to the playoffs. And whether that's winning the division and hosting a wild card game, or coming in as a wild card team themselves and having to go on the road to win a wild card game, I do think the Jaguars end up punching their ticket to the playoffs here in 2025. I like almost everything they did this offseason. I've told y'all there's a couple little things I would have changed up, but I think that this coaching staff, offensively and defensively and on special teams, cannot forget Heath Farwell and company, is going to get this team headed in the right direction and win enough games. And this has kind of been the recipe for the Jaguars as of the last decade or so. Get hot later in the season. And in 2017, I think they lost a couple games at the end of the year, but they started that season out like they were 500 through I think like 7-8 weeks, something like that, and then they got hot down the back half of the season. 2022, obviously they went scorched earth to finish that season. Here I have the Jaguars winning 4 out of their last 5 against the Titans, against the Colts, Jets, Colts, and Titans, losing to Denver. So I have them winning 4 out of their last 5. That's the way their schedule just ends up setting up, I think, a lot year over year, where you have a little bit of an easier schedule down the stretch. And I think a big part of that is the fact that they're in the AFC South. And you look at the AFC South and you're not always super confident in some of the team's directions there. So that's where we're at. I have the Jaguars at 10-7. Give me your record prediction in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe, and y'all have a good one.